Today, I'm going to be talking about my favourite Star Trek film, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. Greetings and welcome to my channel, JJP Horror, Sci-Fi and Fantasy Corner. I'm your host, JJP. When it comes to the films starring the original cast, the consensus is that the even-numbered ones are better than the odd-numbered ones. I generally tend to agree, with one exception, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. Let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with that consensus. Now for a bit of trivia. Which famous actor was first cousins with the late Miguel Ferrer, who played the first officer of the Excelsior? Make sure you stay tuned to the end to find out. I know it's an old film, but spoilers ahead, just in case you haven't gotten round to watching it yet. The film was released in the summer of 1984, and I didn't waste any time to take myself to the cinema to watch it. I was still a little bitter with that 15 certificate that Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan had received. I was only a few months away from my 15th birthday, so off I went to the cinema in the hope that I could somehow convince the lady at the ticket office to let me in to see it. Needless to say, I was not successful. As a die-hard fan who had grown up watching Kirk and his crew go off on different adventures in the original TV series week after week, as someone who also loved the animated show which ran between 1973 to 1975 and went to watch Star Trek the Motion Picture as soon as I could in 1979, I was not impressed with that certificate. Going back to Star Trek III, there I was once again at the cinema waiting for the lights to go out and the curtains to open so I could join my childhood hero Captain Kirk and his crew on their next adventure, and I couldn't have been more excited. Reprising their roles, we had William Shatner, DeForest Kelley, James Doohan, Walter Koenig, George Takei, and Nichelle Nichols. Leonard Nimoy would return this time as director, with an appearance towards the end of the film. The film score was by James Horner, who would go on to compose music for such films as Cocoon and Aliens. The film picks up right after the events of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. A battered ship, dead and injured crew members, and dealing with the aftermath of Spock's death. Shortly after Spock's funeral, the Enterprise is ordered back to Starbase to be decommissioned, and its crew to be sent onto different assignments. Meantime, we meet the villain Krug, played by Christopher Lloyd, who I think is a solid villain, but sadly overshadowed at times by Ricardo Montalban's Khan from Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan. We first meet him as he receives a copy of the Genesis project from Valkyries, his lady, played by Kathy Sheriff, who is at the time on board a merchantman freighter, a ship crew ends up destroying, with its crew and Valkyrie still on board, after she reveals that she has watched the Genesis tape. This gives the audience a taste of what type of villain Krug is, and what Kirk will go up against later in the film. In the meantime, it's discovered that Dr. McCoy is acting strangely, as unbeknownst to all, Spock has left his Katra, or soul, with him. Sarek, played by Mark Leonard, visits Kirk and asks him why he left Spock behind on Genesis, as he believes that Spock has left his Katra with Kirk. After a mind meld between Sarek and Kirk reveals that Spock's Katra is not there, all hope seems lost, until Kirk suggests viewing the ship's log with Spock's last moments. This eventually leads to Kirk discovering that Spock has left his Katra with Dr. McCoy, thus explaining his strange behaviour. We join Dr. McCoy as he tries to hire a frigate from an alien whose way of speaking is much akin to that of Yoda. This leads to some very comical exchanges between him and the alien. Eventually, their conversation catches the attention of a civilian agent played by Conroy Gideon. Seeing Dr. McCoy trying the Vulcan nerve pinch on him is pure cinema gold, and leads to him being taken into custody. With the knowledge of what's happened to Dr. McCoy and Spock's Katra, Kirk approaches Admiral Morrow, played by Robert Hooks, asking for permission to take the Enterprise back to Genesis to recover Spock's body. He is refused, but Kirk being Kirk, goes ahead with his mission. He frees Dr. McCoy from custody and then steals the Enterprise from Starbase Command, with help from Scotty, Chekhov, Sulu and Uhura. They are pursued by the new and superior ship, the Excelsior, captained by Captain Stiles, played by James B. Sickin, who you may remember from Hill Street Blues, where he played a trigger-happy Lieutenant Howard Hunter. His crew also has a very young Miguel Ferrer, whom you may remember from RoboCop, Iron Man 3 and The Night Flyer, a Stephen King adaptation. However, the chase is soon cut short as the Excelsior starts making some guttural sounds just before coming to a sudden halt, thus allowing the Enterprise to escape. Later, on the bridge of the Enterprise, Scotty drops a few screws in McCoy's hand and reveals that he has sabotaged the Excelsior. They eventually reach Genesis, which leads to a standoff between Kirk and Krug, who is desperate to capture a Federation starship, his second attempt, as his over-eager gunner had accidentally destroyed the USS Grissom on his first attempt, leading to the death of most of his crew, including Captain Esteban, played by Philip R. Allen. Only Savick, this time played by Robin Curtis, replacing Kirstie Alley from the previous film, Kirk's son David, played by Merritt Buttrick, and a now young and very much alive Spock are left on the planet. After a major battle, eventually Spock is taken back to planet Vulcan and is reunited with his Katra on Mount Seleia. Star Trek 3 is an emotional journey for both its characters and us as the audience. We mourn with Kirk when his son is brutally murdered on a Genesis planet, and feel his pain as he falls to the floor cursing the Klingons.
Klingon bastard, you killed my son.
Then seeing the destruction of the much beloved USS Enterprise, which almost felt like losing an old friend, we share that moment of sadness as his fiery remains are watched by Kirk and his crew from the planet's surface. The stakes were truly high in this entry, and even Kirk couldn't bluff or fight his way out of these dire situations without suffering some major losses. This film leaves its mark, and although many see it as a setup for the excellent and quite funny Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, I see it as much more than that. This film felt personal. At least it did for me. It took us on a journey where it was just Kirk, McCoy, Scotty, Chekhov, Sulu and us, on a rogue mission away from all Starfleet protocol. And I loved it for that. Of course, like all forms of art, film is subjective. However, I still feel that this is the most emotional and personal entry of the original 6 films that took the audience in one hell of a roller coaster ride. Let me know in the comments below if you feel the same way about Star Trek 3, or if one of the other entries had a personal impact on you. Now, to answer the trivia question. Miguel Ferrer's famous cousin is none other than Mr. George Clooney. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. I have been JJP, and I look forward to discussing films and shows that we are all passionate about. Hope to see you soon.